Hello friends, welcome to GST Quick Info Bytes Day 4. We will go through few basic concepts of GST. Of course, these concepts will be elaborately explained in the coming sessions. To start with, let us understand what is the importance of distinction between goods and services. As you all know by now, GST is applicable whether it is supply of goods or services. Now, how does it matter whether it is goods or services if GST is applicable anyway? In short, does the distinction between goods or services carry any importance? Well, the answer to this is yes. It is very important to distinct between goods and services. This distinction is very much relevant to ascertain place of supply, time of supply, and valuation. These three concepts, place of supply, time of supply, and valuation, will be elaborately explained in the coming sessions. For instance, there are certain examples which are neither classified as goods nor services. One such example being service provided by an employee for the employer in the course of employment is neither treated as goods nor services. Moving on to the next concept, that is consideration. GST is applicable if goods or services are supplied for consideration. If consideration is nil, it concludes that GST is not applicable. However, activities given in Schedule 1 are subject to GST in spite of the fact that there is no consideration. This is best explained in one of this example. Supply of goods or services by a taxable person to a related person is subject to GST even if consideration is nil or it is given in a way of gift. Of course, friends, it holds good only for related person and not for unrelated person giving gift. The second best example would be an asset gifted by a company to its employee, of course, which is not covered in the employment agreement, is subject to GST. Though consideration is absent in this case, GST will be applicable. But a very important point to be noted here is gift up to 50,000 in a financial year to an employee by an employer is not subject to GST. In short, gift up to rupees 50,000 is exempt for a gift given to an employee by an employer in a financial year. Moving on to the next concept, that is input tax credit. Output supplier of goods or services can avail credit of CGST, SGST and IGST charged by the input supplier of goods, services and capital goods. The main purpose of ITC, that is input tax credit, is to avoid cascading effect. There are certain rules which has to be strictly followed while setting off the input tax credit of CGST, SGST and IGST. The table shown in the slide makes it amply clear as to the rules. Input tax credit available under IGST, that is the first case, input tax credit available under IGST should be set off against IGST itself as a first preference. If any balance remains, it can be set off against CGST, SGST or UTGST in the best possible manner. Now the question which quite naturally arises here is, what is the best possible manner? You can set off the balance IGST available against the CGST exclusively or SGST exclusively, or take any proportion or ratio and set it off against both in any order of your choice. Now moving on to the next one, that is CGST. CGST can be set off against CGST as a first preference, and balance CGST can be set off against IGST. Moving on to the next one, that is SGST or UTGST. SGST or UTGST can be set off against SGST or UTGST itself as a first preference, and if any balance remains, then it can be set off against IGST. Certain important points to be noted here is the first one: input credit of SGST cannot be set off for the payment of CGST. I'll repeat, input tax credit of SGST cannot be set off for the payment of CGST. Similarly, input tax credit of CGST cannot be used for the payment of SGST. A very important point, one more very important point which is worth mentioning here is, if a person supplies taxable goods or services and he also supplies exempt goods or services, he can avail only proportionate tax credit. Let's move on to the next concept, that is taxable person. Taxable person means a person who is registered or is liable to be registered under GST. I'll repeat here, person who is registered, who is already registered, or who is liable to be registered under GST. Every supplier whose aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs is required to get registered under GST. From 1st April 2019, 20 lakhs is increased to 40 lakhs in case of a person who is engaged exclusively in the supply of goods. To summarize this, a person who is engaged exclusively in the supply of goods and not services, the threshold limit would be 40 lakhs, and a person who is engaged in supply of services, the threshold limit would be 20 lakhs. Certain points which needs your attention here is, a person having aggregate turnover of not exceeding 20 lakhs is exempt from GST. The second one, aggregate turnover includes taxable supplies, exempt supplies, stock transfer, export, etc. Third one, it is calculated on all India basis of a taxable person who has PAN for income tax. The fourth one, if GST is payable under reverse charge mechanism, this exemption limit of 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, as the case may be, will not be available. A person who is required to pay tax under reverse charge has to compulsorily get registered under GST, irrespective of the fact that the turnover is 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs. The threshold limit does not hold good for him, and he shall compulsorily get registered under GST. Thank you, friends. I kindly request you to subscribe to this channel. Thank you.